Hello and welcome to the One Shot Show where GMs go to level up, and I think we're doing an all-time classic topic today. I think that it's like the topic that has been proposed. I think that it's been spoken to. It's been spoken to, I think, so many times, and I'm so interested to hear your take on it because I always take something different away from this one.
Before we get into it, though, Patty, I got to be honest. We've had quite a few complaints about you. Yeah, some of the others have. They've just. I'm not going to get into specifics, but they have said a few things just about, the behavior at this table, and look. You're a great player, don't get me wrong, and we've enjoyed playing with you, but I also just don't know that you're the best fit for what we're trying to do here. Nothing personal, no hard feelings, but I'd appreciate if you drop out at this point. I can sort of drop you out of the Discord server in a way that people won't easily notice. If you've got people you want to say goodbye to, feel free to, but please don't get nasty with people. Other than that, it's been a pleasure.
I feel like you've done that before. Have you had to do this before?
It's well-practiced speech.
Wow.
I have, in fact, had to drop a player from my game.
Holy.
How do we deal with problem players?
Wowza.
You're going to get them. It is inevitable. And I know we have this idea that, if you put out the call for players, who knows who's going to show up. It could just as easily be your friend. Maybe your friend is just a dick at the table, doesn't know how to engage in the game right. You've spoken with them about it. They've not listened, or they've gone, yeah, but haven't really changed anything. And the time comes to make the call, right? Let's talk about how you actually deal with a problem player. Start to finish, you initially see the problem. What's step one?
Yeah, I mean, Can I go step zero? Because what I do as a GM now is that I try and burst balloons early in session zero. Like I've been running the game. I think
like a drill sergeant. You're like, you are scum. You are the lowest of the low. I, as far as you are concerned, are God.
Not like that.
Oh, okay.
No, actually, I try the full soft boy approach at the beginning, where I'll go I'll outline.
We're all friends here.
A little bit I'll outline sometimes behaviors that I've seen at my table, maybe from people who are at that table, to go in this campaign we're going to steer clear of this and that and the other, and these particular modes and ways of playing or building a character or playing a table. I try and lay it all out at the beginning.
Do you go into primary school teacher mode a little bit, where you're like, okay, now we use our words, not our hands?
A little bit sometimes, especially in a session zero before the play begins. I go I feel like there's so much opportunity at the beginning to outline the sort of things that that can make a problem, that can cause a problem player to spiral over time.
Yeah, setting expectations. Side note, it is incredible how many tools for handling children work for handling adults.
100%.
Oh.
It's yes. I worked in primary teaching for a hot minute there, and it is. I find there's lots of things about language instruction, But I think in session zero, I will lay out some of the things that I go that can be a problem. That can be a problem down the line.
Behavioral expectations, giving some examples, and what to do differently as well. Often works. One of the first things I do once we sort of move past that, once we're on step one, something's happened. Something has happened. And I think there's actually two versions of this. There's something that is clear and obvious and you see and everyone sees, and another player brings something to you that you may not be aware of.
100%. Yeah, because I agree.
Yeah.
Often, you'll be playing at the table, and then it can be a player that brings to your attention, hey, this sort of play, or this sort of behavior that is happening at the table is negatively impacting my experience at the table.
Yep.
And that's happened to me once, and I was so snowblind to it, and it was so important to have the player voice that.
Yeah, when a player comes to me with a problem, the first thing I actually do is I sense check it, and I tell them that's what I'm doing. I'm just saying, hey, look, I'm not meaning to disbelieve you here. I just want to understand a little bit better. Talk to me about this. Could there be a misunderstanding? I just want to make sure before I go confronting anyone, right? Now, that's happened to me. Sometimes it's been a bit more extreme. I don't want to say extreme. It's never been outlandishly bad for me. At most, it's been they just rubbed me the wrong way. I had one, though, where I'm glad I sense-checked it, because really the heart of the problem was the player with the complaint felt that the other player kind of bulldozed on the role play, and I sort of went, well, look, I'm hearing you, but from where I'm sat, it feels like no one else says anything, so he takes the lead. and I see him giving a beat for other people to jump in. So maybe next session, try jumping in, right? And if he bulldozes that, now we've got a problem, we'll talk about that. And then the player went, okay, he tried it, and it worked out fine. Both players are still at my table to this day. Cool. Great, right? That's a wonderful solution. That's the thing. Your best outcome is not you have to have the brave conversation where you kick a player. It's that you can resolve the problem in some way. Now, when it is a bit more serious, again, sense check it. Make sure that it's on the level. If you have a player at the table that maybe you are quite close to, that you feel like you can trust quite well personally, maybe I don't know, your spouse plays at the table, a longtime friend, someone who you might be able to confide in. You can say, hey, look, I just want to let you know I've had something come to me about X player. Have you noticed this? Again, get a second opinion. Sense check it, right? And then there is nothing wrong with kicking a player out. You were there for fun. You are trying to enjoy your time. By the way, if you don't want to sense check, you don't have to. Like, I just want to be totally clear. If you don't want to go through all of that, if you are happier, just, a complaint comes to you, you go, that sounds kind of bad, and I just want us to have a good time. I'm just going to send the guy packing politely. You can totally do that if you want, right? Like, it's your table, run it the way you want. The only reason I encourage the extra layers of sense checking is I have played at a table that had the plaintiff that was the problem. They would raise every little thing to the GM, and the GM would respond to you. He'd go to you in a DM and go, hey, here's what's going on. And it was always an impossible bar to clear. You try and fix the behavior. It wasn't actually fixable. The complaint would come through a second time and you'd get booted. And that poor sap of a GM just kept having to kick players and never really understood why. So that's why I say it's worth sense checking. There are people who will take advantage of the fact that you are quick to kick if that is how you do things.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, my experience as a GM, and I know that many different ways out there, is I play almost exclusively with friends I've known for a long time. So when I'm dealing with problem play, it's just I don't know. I've never had a player that I've thought I've needed to boot, and yeah, it's fascinating. That script that you gave before, is that how you do? Is that how you've done in the past?
That was how I did that particular one. And I'll talk about that, actually, because that was interesting. I still interact with this guy. He's actually, he is still sort of in the wider orbit of the group. We don't play. Didn't gel. Yeah. Was not a good match for the table.
Yeah. Because I go, that's part, there are players who bring big problems with them, and then sometimes there are players who are just kind of this just wasn't the game. This wasn't the game for you, and that could be the game as in this session. It could be the game as in this particular arc. It could be where that person is at that point in their life, or it could be hey, me as a GM and you as a player, and these particular 4 people. The alchemy means that we're just we're not having the most fun right now,
and that's actually the one you're more likely to come across, to be honest, compared to the gross misconduct type ones.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I actually find those are often... I actually find they're easier to deal with than the gross misconduct ones, because you can just play... You can just say, I don't think this is working. I don't think we're gelling. And they usually know, too. They can usually feel it, right? They, interact at the table and they can kind of feel that it's just not gelling right. They try to roleplay a certain way and they don't get a good response from people, or they don't know how to jump into the other roleplay that happens. You can tell, right? People generally know.
Yeah.
Obviously, big asterisks on all of this for neurodivergence. I'm not going to get in the weeds of that right now, mostly because I don't believe that we are a qualified pair to go into that in great detail. But most of the time, if you have to say, hey, look, I don't think this is working, let's go our separate ways, that's usually going to work out fine. It's actually harder, I find, when it's the more extreme misconduct. And that is because there tends to then need to be a second step to it. Somebody has been harassing another player. This gets brought to you as the GM, and it is often on you as the GM that sort of who gets looked to as the person who's going to manage these interactions, or at the very least mediate and adjudicate them.
100%.
Because look, I've also got a lot of players who we're all slightly older gentlemen. We are all mature enough to say, dude, shut up. Why are you talking to me like that? Back off. You know, they don't often need to come running to me, but sometimes it can happen, and it's fine that it does.
And it's a part of the GM's role that is not sometimes explicit to you when you start out play to go like, as part of your role, occasionally you'll need to assist in negotiating this politic.
So when it is a more serious thing, there's the conversation with the person doing it. If it's behavior that could maybe be rectified, you seek ways to do that. If that is something that your players are happy with. If not, you say goodbye. Explain why. Don't make it nasty. No need to get personal. Look, a couple of players have raised that they're not super happy with the way that you interact with them outside of the table. I'm not comfortable with that going on. We're here to have a good time. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Right? There's a step after that, which is you need to make sure that wound heals over properly at the table. If you leave it, look, there's probably going to be a moment where people are like, oh, okay, good relief. But if you don't deal with it adequately, then you're going to be sat there going, okay, well, we've now only got 3 people and I kind of need a 4th to keep numbers, so I'm going to go recruiting again, and everyone's immediately going to be on their guard because they're thinking about what happened last time.
Yeah.
Right? You actually do still need to sit down at your table, have a bit of a housekeeping conversation about what went down, about how it got dealt with, and I find the way to go is be positive. Remind people, look, most of the time when we bring players in, it doesn't go like that. Let's not worry about that. That was just one arsehole. All right? We're going to need to fill that seat. I'm going to put some feelers out. We'll make sure that we're happy with them before we really commit to them in the long term. And look, worst case scenario, they're not a good fit and we kick them. Don't sweat it.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's just going to set everyone a little bit more at ease as we move forward.
Yeah. And I feel like for every negative experience that you will have as a GM, you will learn better how to like set your own expectations to like do either the preparatory work or like the stuff that comes in later to be able to, I don't know, to support you the next time you need to come up against something that feels as complex as that. Which is kind of maybe is like, I don't know. I feel like is there anything more complex or challenging to deal with as a GM as to when you were handling a truly problematic player?
It is tough, right? And it's because so often it boils down to needing to have we often use the term the brave conversation because that is what it is. Like God, I hate people who say, "Oh, I can't even make a phone call. I'm so scared to even make a phone call." Fucking grow up for one thing. But people run the full gamut of that all the way up to, people who have to adjudicate, judges who have to adjudicate over sexual misconduct, in a legal sense, and heinous crimes. You get people who have to have brave conversations all the way up to that level. We are nowhere near that, all right? We may be a few steps up from the phone call to order a pizza, but we are a long way away from having to like investigate child harm, right? We are just having conversations at the table about D&D, all right? It's not that big a deal. It's not that hard. It sucks. I don't like doing it, but it's also not that hard to do.
Yeah, and in my case, where I've been playing with friends, it's generally been the friend who is like acting out at table. There's like it's often incredibly specific.
Yeah.
It's something like really specific, like they're jumping in one beat before everyone else.
Yeah.
Or in the case of like one friend who was really straight up, who was kind of like, not at the time, it took a little while afterward to go like, I was coming to the table to exercise a fantasy of power because I was feeling so like disempowered in my own life. And I was like, I was playing D&D like, I don't know, like it was professional soccer, and I was bringing all of the professionalism and the rage of like that form to the D&D table, and it wasn't the appropriate place to do that thing. Yeah, it's very, very case specific.
And I find actually the best thing you could do fundamentally is be a little bit empathetic. And your example is a great tell of that, because I've also had a player who's just off one day, and it's because they had a shit week, right? Yeah. And they might be off 3 or 4 sessions in a row because they're going through a really, really busy time. And they probably know it on some level. That doesn't mean it's time to go kicking them out unless they like do something that is like actively harmful or upsetting or antagonistic to other people that cannot otherwise be smoothed over interpersonally. That's why we say there's a lot of steps before that sit down, kick them out conversation. That's why I tend to advise going that route rather than being the, you can cut off anyone in your life. You don't even need to give a specific reason, right? I think there's that it never steers you wrong. I've never felt bad for having extended empathy only to have it spat on. I still feel like I was right to have done that in the first place. And for what it's worth, in the context of tabletop RPGs, I've never had that happen. I've never had a situation where I have extended the care, extended the empathy, given someone the benefit of the doubt as I look into things further, advised everyone to see things out a little bit to try and resolve problems. I've never had that then turn into something so utterly disastrous that maybe I shouldn't have been quite so careful, I suppose. And I actually think the best thing you can do in all of this is communicate, and that doesn't just mean with the people directly involved, it means with the other people too. Say, hey, look, this is happening at the table, here's what's happening about it, because then they know the next session when they show up and maybe there's a little bit of a weird vibe that they clue into, they already know why, and they don't get freaked out by it. They're like, okay, it's because I know that this thing's going on, it's not a big deal, probably won't be there in a session or two, moving on.
Yeah. 100%. I think that there are so many ways to approach it. I feel like the relationship is the most important thing, and going like what can you hold up to the point at which until you go to the worst case scenario, which is leave the table.
Because I'm trying to have a good time, right? At the end of the day, I'm trying to have a good time. And I'll be honest with you, Patty. I know I went into this pretty bloody minded, but over the course of the last 15 minutes, you've acquitted yourself well. And if you're willing to have a bit of a do-over, I actually think we'd love to keep you at the table. Would be happy to have you continue to play with us week on week, and hopefully we also see you in the next one. If you enjoyed that episode of the One Shot Show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/one-shot-show. You'll see all of the offerings available. You can commission custom episodes. You can get video versions of our regular weekly episodes. You can get monthly bonus episodes where we deep dive into particular topics. You can submit questions for our regular Q&A format, and we have a new offering that we're going to be launching this month, where at the end of each month we will do a live Q&A session in our Discord server talking about the episodes from the most recent month. Also, for the next 3 months, anyone who backs us on Patreon will get 5 complimentary invites to our Discord server as we grow that community further. Please check it out and please support the show.